Welcome to episode 8 of the J&J Podcast. I'm Jamie.
This is Jameson.
We want to welcome everybody in. Before we get started, we want to wish all the veterans out there a happy Veterans Day. Thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for your service. It does not go unappreciated, although it can be a selfless job. So we want to thank all the veterans for making sure that we have freedom in this country and for making sure that we're protected. Jameson, anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I completely agree. I was going to say happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans and also to all of our current military members. Like you said, very selfless job. It's a job I have a lot of respect for the men and women that fight for our country every day and I fight for our daily freedom. So just huge salute to all of our military members and past military members. Huge shout out to everybody.
Nice. All right, let's jump into it. Zach, what's on the docket first for today?
First on the docket, we'll kick it off with college football. And the first topic, we want to talk about Georgia and being upset by Ole Miss this Saturday. So, Jamie, go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, so let's talk about the fact that right now in college football, I don't know who's really the dominant football team. I think it was definitely a surprise to everyone. When you look at what people's expectation was, I was watching College Game Day Saturday morning, and I think only one person actually thought that there could potentially be an upset. But everybody else, of course, expected Georgia to win. So it was really a big surprise to me. And I'm curious, Jameson, what you thought about how Ole Miss played and what their strategy was.
Honestly, I'll say this. I think Ole Miss, they came in with a great game plan. Their corners played amazing. And also along with their defensive line, like they got constant pressure on Carson Beck, which I feel like is really what made the difference. And that's the thing. You could tell that Ole Miss approached that game. They weren't nervous or afraid or scared to play Georgia. Kind of like, how you talked about in the past with Alabama, like teams don't really fear them anymore. And I feel like that's the case with Georgia because even outside of this loss, like they almost lost to Kentucky early on in the season. So they've had multiple games where, they've lost and they've honestly lost to teams that, they've also had close losses, close games wherever they could have lost to teams that honestly they probably shouldn't have. And I will say this, Ole Miss, I think they were ranked number 16 or 17 going into that game. I'm like, with a win like that and they continue to just keep stacking on that, they honestly have a chance to make the college football playoff at this point if, they can win out the rest of the season. So, honestly, probably what you're going to allude to, that's a really bad loss for Georgia, but a really huge win for Ole Miss. And, honestly, now that could honestly give them a chance to potentially end up making the college football playoff. So, overall, those are my thoughts on that game.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to add. I agree. Ole Miss came in there. There's been a shift with those teams that, people's expectations, I think, have to shift. When you talk about Alabama, you talk about Georgia, those teams that usually are at the top. They're not juggernauts like they used to be over the past couple of years. And I think that they are, right now they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so Ole Miss saw that, and I think they took full advantage of it. So it'll be interesting to see because this college playoff now with the expansion, I just don't necessarily see a team that I would say, oh, they're not going to be, nobody can beat them.
Yeah.
I just don't see that in college football. The parity is certainly there this year. So, and with that said, when you talk about a team that you didn't expect to lose, Georgia Tech, my goodness, that was and let me just say this before I jump all the way into what they actually did, because I've watched them play a little bit earlier in the season, and I was curious as to how the whole two quarterback thing was going to actually work, and this is one of the few times I've actually seen it work to perfection.
Yeah,
to have one quarterback in the game who really, he's not much of a threat to throw the football, although he threw it a few times. He's not much of a threat, and what's coming, but you're not able to stop it. And then you bring in when you've got, 10 plus yards, everybody knows the other guy's going to come in and throw the football, and he was slinging it. So I was impressed with the fact that they literally had a game plan, which was running the football, getting out to the outside, and Miami simply was not able to defend it. It was an impressive win, but I didn't see it coming. I actually thought, in the second half, that Miami was going to do what I've seen them already do several times this year, is to come all the way back.
Yeah.
I saw after that first touchdown in the second half, I was like, oh well, they earned to score two more. They're going to go ahead and close this game out. And Georgia Tech stepped up. Their defense stepped up, and they were able to actually, drain the clock and not give Miami as many opportunities on offense. So, your thoughts, Jameson?
No, I completely agree. And I'll be honest, out of all the, so-called upsets from the weekend, that was the biggest one in my opinion. But I will say this, and you kind of talked about it too. We've talked about it on previous episodes. Miami's still going to be fine. I think, honestly, this could be a good wake-up call for them because if you've watched, and we've just discussed this, they've been down in a lot of games. Like, even last week, they played, it was Duke, right? I think. Yeah, last weekend, whenever they played Duke, they were down in that game, and they had to claw back and, they were down 26 points early on in the season in one of the games and came all the way back. So I think the way they are, the way that team is built, they can't just continue to get down in games. Like, for example, come college football playoff time, a lot of coaches will just control the pace of the game, control time of possession. So if you get down early in games, you're not always going to have the opportunity to just be able to storm back. And that showed against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech came in with a great game plan. They weren't intimidated by Miami. And this is honestly, them getting down in games finally caught up to them. So overall, though, I still think Miami's going to be a really good college football playoff team. And honestly, this loss, I feel like it's still coming at a good time. Like, you never want to lose. I mean, they were undefeated up until this point. But they rather lose now and, go and make those adjustments as opposed to losing in, the first round of the college football playoffs. So those are my thoughts for that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Not much to add to that. I do want to transition over to because I'm loving it.
Yeah.
And
same.
right now, the haters are quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado beating Texas Tech. I'll let you start it off because I have a lot to say about this one. But
Okay.
I want you to kind of get us started, and then I'll jump back in.
Yeah. First of all, I'm just going to say, I love Deion Sanders, man. What he's been able to do not only at Jackson State, but now silencing the critics and doing this at Colorado. We can talk about it later, but if I'm Jerry Jones, I try to go hire that brother. Because one thing that I've learned about Deion Sanders is he can shift the culture of an entire program just like that. But I will say, actually alluding to the game, Colorado, I just got to give a huge shout out to their defensive line. Their defensive line was just purely dominant the entire game. Their corners played amazing. Their safeties played amazing. You could tell they really put an emphasis on defense in that game. And their defensive coaches and defensive coordinator had them ready to play. And then on offense, I will just say this week, continue to say this, but Shedeur Sanders, I don't feel like he's being talked about enough for the Heisman. I feel like, and honestly a big reason for that is because they of course have Travis Hunter, but the way that Shedeur Sanders has played in every game outside of whenever they lost to the Cornhuskers, I feel like, he should be in the running for the Heisman Trophy. Him and Cam Ward are the two quarterbacks that I feel like just play with the most poise no matter the situation. But one thing I do want to say about the game is, man, it was kind of disgraceful to see how the Texas Tech fans were acting. It got so bad, it was two things. At first, they were throwing actual tortillas on the actual field during the game. And then two other things. It got so bad that they had the PA announcer literally come on the over the announcements and said they were going to start ejecting whole sections of fans, if people just continue to keep throwing stuff on the field. They were throwing water bottles, pretty much anything you can think of. And then it got so bad after that, they actually gave the Texas Tech coach a microphone. He literally said, he was like, please stop throwing stuff on the field. We're about to start getting penalties. So, Texas Tech, I know, fans get into the game and, in the moment and stuff like that. But, you can't be doing that during, a nationally televised college football game. So, I'm glad that Colorado pretty much beat the brakes off of them because those fans were off their rocker. But, yeah, huge shout out to Colorado, 7-2 now. And now, honestly, they were talking about it with, some of the other losses that took place over the weekend. if Colorado wins out, they have a chance to, compete for the Big 12 title. And honestly, too, if things kind of like, go their way, they have a chance to make the college football playoff if they win out, which is crazy to think like Deion Sanders has transformed that program from 4 wins last season to, a potential spot in the college football playoff. So, like, huge shout out to the Colorado Buffaloes.
Yep. So a couple of things from my perspective. Warren Sapp is doing a tremendous job with that defense. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers legend. Mm-hmm. Deion Sanders knew what he was doing. He found the right person. Because let's just be honest, it's not as if he has, the best personnel at this point. I know he's still recruiting. I know he's still building that team. But the way that Warren Sapp had that defense playing was impressive. I agree with you about Shedeur. I think he should be the first quarterback taken. I realize that there are lots of other quarterbacks that people would say, well, but I'm sorry, he's just shown a maturity. He is, in my opinion, the most NFL ready right now in college. And I also think that, to your point, I've heard some chatter. Some people were saying things like, if I were Jerry Jones, I'd go get Deion Sanders because, he knows how to build a program. I also think if you look at some of the players that are being brought to the NFL, he actually knows how to reach them.
Facts.
And he's shown that he knows how to coach.
Yeah.
That's some of these haters, the knock has always been, oh, they're too loud, they're too obnoxious. I won't talk about that because I believe that there's some unconscious bias, some conscious and some unconscious, when it comes to some of those comments being made.
Facts.
Because when other coaches, are a little bit cocky and they're what some call arrogant, not much is said.
But even look at how he handled the Texas Tech fans. You didn't hear it, like, right. He didn't say anything crazy. They let their game do the talking.
Exactly. I mean, if you go back and look at Nick Saban, there were times when, like, this might be the most arrogant cat in college football.
Yeah.
It was never questioned whether it was just arrogance or he was just exuding confidence.
Mm-hmm.
We know what that means.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm impressed with the win. Happy for them. To your point, I hope that they can get into the college football playoffs. If they don't, it's a win-win already. I think they're ranked number 18 this week.
Yeah, they'll be in a bowl game.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to them. Jamison, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay. Because
there was another game with Alabama looking like what most expect Alabama to look like over LSU. That was a thrashing. Your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. And last thing I was going to say about Colorado before he transitioned to is Deion Sanders is hands down coach of the year. But yeah. Yes, sir. But shifting
will he get it? That's a good question.
If he doesn't, though, I don't know who else would get it at this point. Like,
I'm hearing the Indiana head coach.
Come on, bro.
I know.
Boy, ain't no way, boy. But shifting to the Bama LSU game, first off, I'm going to just say the reason why they won that game is Jalen Milroe. I get their defense came to play. They were playing a hostile territory and, playing LSU. But Jalen Milroe looked like Michael Vick in Madden 04. This brother had 4 rushing touchdowns, 185 yards. And he's already broken the record at Alabama. Think about all the good quarterbacks that Alabama has had over all these years. He already has the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in a single season at Alabama. And we're only, 8 or 9 games in? So, like you said, though, this is how Alabama, like most people view them to play. And even though that was a positive win, I just got to continue to see them build upon that and, like, string, multiple performances like that consecutively, because they'll play like this one game and then they'll get upset next week or just not come out to, play down to their opponent the following week. So I think, like you were about to say, that's a huge win for them. But they just got to continue to build upon that. And I feel like they will now. I feel like, honestly, now they're clicking at the right point in the season. But, yeah, your thoughts.
Yep, I completely agree. I'm just going to say it. Shaq sometimes will say Shaq-like numbers. He was putting up LJ-like numbers.
Yeah.
You know who LJ
Lamar
is?
Jackson.
That's right. that was that was an incredible that was an incredible display of ridiculous athleticism, speed. It was quite impressive, and I'll just have to. I'm just going to have to say it. In order for Alabama to continue to win, because of course they destroyed them, but I think because they have some deficiencies on the defensive side of the football, he's going to have to not necessarily run for 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, but they got to put up a lot of points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're going to have to put up a lot of points. He's going to have to continue to be a dual threat. And honestly, he's going to have to score touchdowns running and throwing the football.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good win for them. I'm not completely sold, as I said at the beginning of this segment. College football has a lot of parity, and the teams that are supposed to be the powerhouses that everybody expects, I don't see that this year. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that for now. We'll just see how Alabama does going forward.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We got college basketball. Just one game to talk about this week: Carolina and Kansas. Both of y'all, we know that you love Carolina, so let's hear about that. Jameson, start with you.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, and I'll let my dad talk more about it because we were, talking about the game as well. But I'm going to be honest, Hubert Davis, he purposely scheduled that game because a lot of people would be like, why are you playing the number one team in the country that early? But I actually think it was smart and it showed. Like, you rather play those teams now and prepare to, what you're potentially going to have to face, come March, whenever, if we try to, hopefully make a deep run in March Madness. But overall, the fact that we were down 20 points in that game, have a lot of new, players on this roster. I'm still trying to figure out the best lineup combinations, the best sets to run, the style of play that Hubert Davis and Carolina ultimately want to run. The fact that we came back from 20 points down, and if what's his name? I can't think of his name. Hit that 3 at the end of the game. We could have actually went to overtime, or potentially, even won that game. So overall, a lot of people are just probably gonna be like, "Well, man, you were down 20," but the fact that we fought all the way back and genuinely had a chance to win that game, we were up 5 with like 2 minutes left in the game. So the fact that Carolina was, almost able to beat the number one team in the country is a really positive sign. And I feel like they can just use that now, since it's early on in the season, to be able to, build good habits. And trust me, we'll see them again come March Madness time if, everything clicks.
Yep. I am, by every stretch of the imagination, already proud of this team because Armando Bacot is not walking out of that tunnel.
Yeah.
And he's just not. I mean, look, I saw people talking about Hunter Dickinson, 20 and 10. I'm like, man, if Armando Bacot were still playing, we wouldn't even know that Hunter Dickinson was on the court.
Facts.
It's just the truth. And all the jokes that used to be talked about with Armando Bacot being old, Hunter Dickinson has to be 37 years old.
I ain't gonna lie. Hunter Dickinson played against Moses Malone. I ain't gonna hold you.
Well, I thought that he was the dude who was trying to guard Bill Russell.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous how long he's been in school, or at least it seems that way.
Yeah.
And so what we have to do, and what we were able to do in this game, was we had a big man by committee, and you've got Jalen Washington, you've got Lubin, I think is his last name.
Yeah.
And then he also played James Brown for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Just bring in, another body. And then Jalen Withers was able to, in the fourth position, help to rebound.
Yep.
So those guys collectively were able to honestly put forth the effort that normally Armando Bacot would have. We weren't able to get a big, in the transfer portal in the offseason. So it's a by committee. And I was honestly pleased to see that we were able to fight back, as you said, Jameson, from 20 points down to the number one team, and took them in Fog Allen.
Exactly, in Kansas. Yeah.
Yes, and took them to literally and by the way, we did all that with R.J. Davis having.
I was literally going to say that brother had a stinker. Like, Elliot Cadeau shot better than R.J. Davis, which is saying a lot.
Steph Trimble and Elliot Cadeau shot better than R.J. Davis.
That's not going to happen.
That's not going to keep happening.
Yeah.
So I like what I'm seeing from this team. I like the fight. Listen, here's the reality. There are still haters with Hubert Davis because there were folks that didn't want Hubert Davis to be the head coach in Chapel Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I know that for a fact. As an alum, I'm well aware of that. But the reality is, this guy knows how to coach.
Facts.
He knows how to make adjustments. I've seen it. And so it'll be fun to watch this team continue to grow. We honestly have, and I have to say this in quotations, almost a murderer's row when it comes to our schedule. But I think it's very smart for him to schedule, teams like this so you can kind of have a litmus test
Mm-hmm.
for where your team is and what your team is going to look like later in the season.
Facts.
So I'm already proud of what I'm seeing from this team with all the changes, all the transition, the fact that you lost the leading rebounder in North Carolina history, the leader in doubles, the leader in rebounding in North Carolina basketball history, and those are some big shoes to fill.
I agree.
So, shout out to the Tar Heels. I like what I'm seeing. I know we'll continue to grow over the course of the year, and it's going to be fun to watch this basketball team develop over the course of the season.
Definitely.
Well, you know what else was fun to watch for me, at least, because I had Jamar Chase on my fantasy team. So let's move into the NFL and talk about the Ravens and the Bengals to kick it off. Jamar Chase, 55 fantasy points, by the way, in case anybody didn't know.
Zach,
go ahead, Jamie.
I'm going to be – go ahead, Dad. Well, I was going
– no, you go ahead, James.
Okay, I was going to say, what's funny is, bro, is you ain't the only one that had him on your fantasy team.
Here we go.
Because,
here we go.
Nah, what happened was my dad texted me because his trade deadline was like this past Wednesday. He texted me, long story short, he ended up getting Jamar Chase Wednesday night and got to play the brother for the Thursday night football game. So he also has Lamar Jackson. So he almost got pretty much 100 points between Jamar Chase and Lamar Jackson. But what I'm going to say is we talked about this last week on the podcast. We both predicted the Ravens to win. But I'll be honest, I wish that would be the AFC Championship game because this is now twice where I feel like the Ravens and Bengals have put up, honestly, game of the year type performances in both of their meetings so far this season. But I gotta give a huge shout out to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. What they've been able to do this season, in spite of them losing, has just been incredible to watch. And been very fun to watch. And then I've always talked about it, man. There's just something different with in the LSU water because all their receivers, whether it be Malik Neighbors, Odell, Jarvis Landry, Justin Jefferson, and now of course we're seeing it with Jamar Chase. They're absolutely incredible. But honestly, man, I gotta give a huge shout out to the Ravens too for actually pulling that game out. It's rare that you give up 268 yards and 3 touchdowns to one receiver and still win the football game. That just shows you how dominant of a performance the Ravens put on the offensive side of the football. But I feel like that was a really huge win for the Ravens. They can, of course, continue to build upon that. And I know their record's not going to show up, but I still feel like the Ravens are overall the best team in the entire National Football League, them and the Lions. So huge win for the Ravens. And also, like I said, huge shout out to Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow in spite of the loss.
Yeah, that was a fun game to watch.
Yeah.
And it was. So I'm going to focus on two players, and to your point, shout out to Joe Burrow because he put up ridiculous numbers as well. Lamar Jackson, man, my God, he is he's on a different level. There are tiers right now, and I know that folks are going to say, like this one dude on Twitter the other day sent a message out and it said, Patrick Mahomes excluded. With Patrick Mahomes already known and excluded, who's the best quarterback in the NFL? And I responded to him on Twitter and I said, with Patrick Mahomes,
it's Lamar Jackson.
It's Lamar Jackson. And so the stuff that he's doing, the plays that he makes, that it's just incredible to watch.
Yeah.
And so, the only knock. And to me, it's really not a knock because now he's finally got a weapon or two, which he's never had.
What's wild is though they didn't even give Deontay Johnson any burn.
Right, I was about to mention that. So you go get Deontay Johnson, and I don't recall him having one catch.
Facts.
But what he's been able to do all these years, and now people are acting like, wow, where was this? It was always there. You just never gave him anything to work with.
Facts.
So he's carried the Ravens at the beginning of his career very much like Cam Newton carry the Panthers.
Yeah, I completely
Cam
agree.
Newton, his best weapon was a tight end.
Yeah.
And it's not coincidental that Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson were putting up ridiculous numbers from the beginning because that's all he had.
Yeah.
So now we can see with a very good running back, with some good wide receivers, and again, it's not like he has, some of the wide receivers that these other quarterbacks have actually had. Zay Flowers is coming.
This is
They
second
just got
season.
Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
This is second season. Nobody is putting Justin Bateman as a number one wide receiver on their fantasy football team. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, he don't have a Jamar Chase or Devontae Adams
No.
or Garrett Will. He don't even have a DeAndre Hopkins like you just said. No.
Exactly. So he's developing Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is getting better, and he's now becoming a really, really good wide receiver. So shout out to Lamar Jackson with the way that he's been performing. Jamar Chase, my goodness. I mean, I knew, but apparently I really didn't.
I tried to put you on, man.
Okay, you did. I've heard about this for a week now, almost a week. So you were right.
Yeah.
Do y'all hear him? He's right. I'm saying it.
Appreciate that.
Anderson was right about Jamar Chase.
Salute.
So, yeah.
Wait, what? I think the audio cut out. Can you say it one more time? Then?
Really?
That's crazy.
Really? Emerson, you were correct this one time.
Appreciate that.
Just once. Yes, just once.
Keep stacking.
Salute. Inside joke. Mark this day down in history. I told Jameson he was correct. Once.
That's good right there. You love that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of being surprised and excited and happy for someone, the Panthers
I knew you were going there.
The Panthers beat the Giants. Okay, first of all, NFL, with the exception of this past Thursday night game, y'all got to do better if you sending teams over to Europe.
If you want to market the league, this ain't the way to do it, bro. I'm sorry.
This is not the way. Jacksonville might as well be called the London Jaguars. That's where they play their best football.
What's wild is, though, I don't even think they won a game over there.
Right, but everybody loves them over there because that's the team that goes all the time.
True.
So, very briefly, Jameson, and when I say briefly, I mean briefly, it's the Panthers and the Giants. But I will say, that Bryce Young, I was pleased to see.
I'm happy for him.
He looked good, not putting up, crazy numbers, nothing to write home about. But they're winning games. They've actually won, which is huge. I was impressed with some of the throws that he made. I think they finally decided, let's give him some help. Let's actually run the football. Because they weren't doing that at the beginning of the season. Chuba, what's his name?
Chuba Hubbard. He just got paid, so I was going to shout him out. He's had a phenomenal season.
He's had a phenomenal. What was it? $30 million that he?
He got $33 million.
$33 million,
which is crazy for a running back in this market.
Absolutely. So I'm happy for him. I was happy to see how they perform. Now, with that said, and then Jameson, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah.
How in the world? Yes, I'm raising my voice. Is Daniel Jones still a quarterback in the?
That guy sucks.
He stinks. And I saw this meme, and it said, "Look at this. Look at what happened when Daniel Jones actually has time in the pocket, and when he threw the pass, he overshot the dude by like 20. He is terrible. That's French for horrible. I just don't get it. I don't understand how in the world this dude, 6 years now?
It might be.
I think it's right at 6 years. How does this dude still have a job?
Yeah.
I just really want somebody to explain that. So I'm not going to go too much into that because I might lose. But Jameson, your thoughts about the Panthers beating the Giants?
First I was going to say I was over the moon for Bryce Young, and I'm going to be honest. Dave Canales, you better not ever bench Bryce Young again, bro. I'm going to just keep it a whole stat with you because what we talked about is you just got to be able to continue to build on Bryce's confidence. Like, these past 2 weeks, I haven't seen that brother smile like that since he won the Heisman. at Alabama, and I'm over the moon. You know, I'm always rooting for Bryce. I love that guy, so I'm very happy for him. But like you said, they simplified the game. He didn't put up crazy numbers. I don't even think he had 200 passing. I think he had like 170 something. But they made the game easy for him. It's like you just paid Chuba Hubbard. He's been putting up crazy numbers. He's been looking like Jonathan Stewart used to look for the Panthers. So I'm glad that they've actually simplified the offense, allowed him to run the football, et cetera, et cetera. But another thing I'm gonna say is this is transition over to the Giants. This just makes their GM look even dumber. It's like, bruh, you decided to pay Daniel Jones before you brought back Saquon Barkley, who's literally one of the best players in the entire National Football League. And Daniel Jones, that brother sucks. I don't think he's a good quarterback. And honestly, what ticks me off about the whole matter is, how does Anthony Richardson get benched before Daniel Jones does? And I know people are going to say, well, the report came out today that the Giants are actually now finally, after all this time, evaluating their, whether Daniel Jones will start for them, going forward to the remainder of this season. But I think Daniel Jones is a terrible quarterback. I mean, you have a decent running back, you have a solid offensive line, and then you literally have who could be a top 10 wide receiver in the entire National Football League in Malik Neighbors, and you fail to be able to get him the football week in and week out. And there can no longer be excuses for Daniel Jones. He got paid his money. It's like, bro, you have to put your money where your mouth is, and honestly, your money where your actual play is. His performance has been just god-awful. He's a terrible quarterback, and I'll be honest, going forward, I don't think he should start next season. Like, it's baffling that Anthony Richardson cannot find a home, is coming off the bench now for Joe Flacco, or another example. How is Daniel Jones a starting NFL quarterback, but Justin Fields is sitting behind Russell Wilson? It just don't add up to me. And I think that brother sucks, but we'll move on.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, that brother stinks, man.
Oh, gosh. I'm going to let you hold this one because, Chiefs are 9-0, defeat the Broncos, and I saw the same thing that I keep seeing. These cats literally the whole team must walk around with in their pockets. Like, everybody has a rabbit's foot. Of course, though, if you're allowed to literally line up the same way every time somebody kicks and you're all sides and you've got dudes jumping on top of other dudes, then, yeah, you're going to block a kick. I really don't even want to talk about the Chiefs. They disgust me.
Yeah.
I despise that organization because it's so obvious that that they're being cheated for. I'm saying it. Yes, Jameson, you might not agree, but
no, Dad. I was on the NFL shop yesterday, and they were showing the jersey ranks for the top jersey that have sold this year. And Patrick Mahomes is number 3, so I clicked on the link, and it was a referee outfit, no trouble. So I get where you're coming from.
That's hilarious. No, you can take this topic. I don't have, because I think I've said it in previous podcasts. There might not be an NFL script, but there's certainly a Kansas City Chiefs script.
No, I completely agree, and honestly, I'm 1,000% agree with you. The only thing I was gonna add is just their defense has really carried them. I don't think we've talked about enough. Patrick Mahomes continues to get bailed out by his defense. Their offense has really not been that good this year. It's not explosive at all. And I mean, granted, they do have a ton of injuries, but it's just I've seen prime example is Lamar Jackson doesn't have a Travis Kelce, or he doesn't have a DeAndre Hopkins, and you see what he's still been able to do. And one could argue that the Chiefs even have a better defense than the Baltimore Ravens. They arguably might have the best defense right now in the entire National Football League. But I will say this, come playoff time, if they run into either the Ravens or even a team like the Broncos, because the Broncos genuinely could have won that game yesterday, and everybody knows the Broncos always give the Chiefs the game of their life. So I will say, even though they're 9-0, I even saw a stat this is the lowest margin point differential the tightest point differential that a 9-0 team has ever had in NFL history. So even though the Chiefs are 9-0 right now, they're a team that I feel could easily lose in the first or second round of the playoffs because their offense has not been good at all. Their defense and, of course, the referees are winning them these games. But we'll go and move on.
Yeah, so Eagles and Cowboys.
Oh, yeah. What's wild is I'm not even about to talk about the game because there was really nothing to ride home about. I mean, the Cowboys suck. Cooper Rush, if that's your answer, then you sub in Trey Lance to immediately throw a Stevie. You have no run game. Yeah, it's
Well,
bad ball.
before you talk about that, I mean, they subbed Trey Lance in for like 2 run plays, then subbed him right back out, and then when Cooper Rush threw another interception, I think
They put him
that's
back
when they
in.
then they put Trey Lance back in. I'm like, what are you doing?
It won't fair
So,
game. If I'm Trey Lance, I would fake an injury. I wouldn't go out there.
oh,
I'm gonna be
absolutely,
honest.
I would have said
Um,
I got to go to the bathroom.
that
So
it got so bad, and this just alludes to who I'm about to really talk about in Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons. But it got so bad. There was a play where CeeDee Lamb was wide open on a slant in the end zone. This brother couldn't catch the ball because he couldn't see it. You know how the
I saw
Cowboy
it.
Stadium is set up where all that
Yes,
sunlight is there. But guess
yes.
whose idea it was to do that dumb crap?
Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones. It's like,
Yes.
bro, like it just like I'm telling you, the Cowboys are cursed, and they're gonna continue to be cursed while he's the owner, and they have a terrible culture in place now, and that's gonna transition me over to Micah Parsons' comments. And I know we have different viewpoints about this, but as a teammate, like, and just as a professional, it's very unprofessional, and it's a bad look, and it's honestly disrespectful to Mike McCarthy for him to be getting called out by his star player in a post-game interview. And what makes it worse is, from Micah Parsons' perspective, it's like, bro, you're supposed to be one of the leaders of the team. It's like, I know you guys don't have a good record right now, but at the same token, it's like, bruh, you've barely played. I've seen Micah Parsons more on podcasts this season than I have on the actual field. It's like, bruh, you can't in your first game back have a. I mean, he had a couple of sacks. You know, he didn't have a bad game, but it's like he's supposed to be one of the leaders. You just got back, and what made you feel like? Who do you think you are to in your post game press conference be calling out your coach like that publicly? Like, it'd be another situation if, like, for example, there was some leaked audio like Rachel Nichols or something like that, and he's dogging out Mike McCarthy. But for you to do that literally publicly in the locker room in front of the media, it's like, bro, like, have some more respect. But then on top of that, I'm just gonna this all falls back to Jerry Jones, because he's enabled a culture where players like Michael Parsons feel like they can just say whatever they please. That's bad ball. And I'll be honest, if I was the GM, Micah Parsons better be happy that the trade deadline just passed, because if he pulled a stint like that, I would have traded him the next day, because that's unacceptable, man. It's like, you're supposed to be a leader, and what's wild is he's trying to get paid. He's not even under contract yet. It's like, bro, like, help yourself out. I don't care that you're, one of the star defensive players. Like, you still have to be a leader in that locker room and just be overall good professional. That was bad ball, man. But your thoughts?
Well, I won't stay on it long, but here's what I will. We do have a difference of opinion, because, yeah, you're not supposed to talk about your coach or throw him under the bus, but maybe he's doing that because he doesn't want to be back there. When you think about it, the way that the Cowboys have been playing, yeah, he just back from. And I agree with you that typically a leader isn't to do that. But when you look at what is actually happening on the field, because there are other teams that have had a backup quarterback and didn't look as bad as the Cowboys looked yesterday. The defense actually did okay, at least for the first part of the game.
Yeah, they couldn't score.
But they could not score. And so Michael Parsons was probably frustrated. When people say he's throwing his coach under the bus, he said, he can get a job. But some of these veterans who've been on this team, they deserve better. Well, basically what he's saying is, I don't want to be on this team. So I think his perspective is a little bit unique in that, you have players now in this era who actually speak up a little bit more than they used to. Back in the day, yeah, that we calls for the team to suspend him and for him to be shunned.
It was just the part, though, where he said, though, at the end of that statement, where he's just like, they've done more for the Cowboys than Mike McCarthy ever has. It's like, bruh, like, you can't. But really, with all due respect,
well, he's not lying.
But no, with all due respect, I would say to him, I would be like, well, bruh, what have you done? Have you won a Super Bowl? Have you won Defensive Player of the Year? So it's just like, bruh, Mike McCarthy has won a Super Bowl. And
if you don't want to, yeah, but not with the Cowboys.
Yeah, no, but I will say this though. This really alludes back to Jerry Jones. But that, to your point, there's still a better way to handle that. Like, you don't have to throw that man under the bus publicly. Like, he's basically making it seem like Mike McCarthy's not doing his job. And it's like, trust me, Mike McCarthy could probably do a better job, but at the same token, it's like, what has he been given to work with this year? They signed Dak Prescott at the 11th hour. They signed CeeDee Lamb at the 11th hour. They brought back Ezekiel Elliott. It's like everyone knew that was a terrible move. They literally found a way to lose to the Packers last year in the playoffs, and they got worse. I don't even know how that's possible. And then Jerry Jones really realistically expected for this team to actually compete. They suck as a franchise. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to leave it at this. They need to do a complete teardown. Like I told you, it's no different than when that Atlanta Falcons lost to the Patriots and blew that lead. They need to fire the janitors. They need to fire the parking attendants. They just got to – that culture sucks right now in Dallas. They just got to do a complete turnaround. And I'm not calling –
We'll agree to disagree. But if a team is losing, whose responsibility is it to get them back on track?
Most times it would be the coach, but I will say this is a different circumstance. This is not the Jets. This is not some of these other organizations where, some coaches can make the difference. Because I'm be honest, even right now, if they had Bill Belichick, it wouldn't be that. They might have another win or two, but it's like Mike McCarthy has been given almost nothing to work with. Their run game sucks. Half the defense has been injured the entire season. Dak and CeeDee Lamb don't have chemistry. It's like, and this is all Jerry Jones' fault. He didn't go in there. Like, Mike McCarthy didn't construct this roster. Just be honest.
I gotta step in. He's already dead. They're already dead, Jay. We gotta move.
I mean, we
gotta move.
Like, it's over. Like,
I'm sorry, man. That joint just baffled.
I'm gonna step in like a Chiefs referee and move us to the NBA.
That's crazy.
Let's get into that. With the Lakers, y'all's team, they benched D'Lo, and we'll start off with that. Go ahead, Jameson.
I'm gonna keep this one brief. I promise. But what I was gonna say is, I honestly think that D'Lo moving to the bench was actually a good move, but what it does show is, we've been saying this for the longest, they just need to go and trade D'Angelo Russell. While he still has some trade value, because I still feel like on the right team, he could go to like a younger team like the Pistons or something like that, and actually be a veteran guy, continue to give them solid minutes in whatever role he's put in. But I feel like his time with the Lakers is done. He's not really a good defender. If you'd already be benched by your coach for a lack of effort, that's not a good sign. It's like the season just started. And I will say this, I'm a big rooter for Cam Reddish, but in the 2 games that Cam Reddish has played now, he's looked phenomenal, a part of that starting unit. He's playing phenomenal defense. He held Paul George to 7 points on Friday's game, against the 76ers. So overall, like, I already like the fact that, J.J. Redick's making those type of adjustments. Because, I mean, for prime example, and I hate to always call him out, but Darvin Ham wouldn't have done that last year. Like, he would have messed around and benched Austin Reeves or Rui like he did last year. So I do like the fact that J.J. Redick's already, paying attention to those small details. But I think they just need to go and trade D'Lo, because if he's just going to continue to come off the bench for $16, $17 million a season, it's like we could go out there and try to get Walker Kessler or Colin Sexton or Cam Johnson or somebody like that, in my opinion. But I just don't trust Rob Pelinka either.
Yeah, I don't. Honestly, I don't have a lot to add. D'Lo is. I've literally tried to be an apologist for him.
You have?
Almost years. I really have. I've been one of the dudes who've been saying, no, when D'Lo comes in, he's been playing well. When he's not shooting well, he keeps the offense moving. Nah, he did some stuff the other night. I'm like, man, you look like when you were with the Lakers the first time, when Kobe was sitting on the bench, disgusted at you and Nick Young because y'all were acting like juvenile delinquents. That's how he still acts to me at times, and I'm like, man, it's time to mature. So it'll be interesting to see. But you were just talking about Jerry Jones. Put all this on. This team has the ability to contend if they have the right pieces, and Rob Pelinka continues to sit on his hands. So I'll transition us over to the Bucks, who are now 2-8, and
rev up those fryers.
Yeah, I think the Dame Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo experiment will be over after this year. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, or if Giannis is request a trade or try to force a trade. This team, they're terrible. Yeah. They are terrible. And I mean, I don't even know where Chris Middleton is anymore. Like, is he still in the NBA? Like, does this dude is he still on the roster?
Facts. I ain't seen that brother.
I ain't seen that brother in a while. So I don't have a whole bunch to say about the fact that the Bucks are 2-8. Giannis went off the last game. I
He's
mean,
been
it
going
was
off every game. They
yeah,
suck.
they stink. So that experiment, I think, needs to be blown up pretty soon. And will we see whether or not? Here's the crazy part. And I was just thinking about this when you were just talking about Darvin Ham. What would happen if they said, well, we're not necessarily going to do anything with the team, but we may with the coach, and Darvin Ham becomes the head coach?
Hey, keep stacking.
Salute.
So, I'm gonna be honest though, and I'm gonna be this is honestly gonna end up being one of the worst moves they've made in their entire franchise history. But them trading Drew Holiday away, man, it's completely demoralized and dismantled that franchise since it happened. It's like they have not looked the same since they won the championship, and it's that. And how do you fire Adrian Griffin last year, who was literally about to be the head coach for the Eastern All Stars? It's like, bro, like, and part of that is Giannis is pulling the strings on that. So it's like, as much as I love Giannis and like I want to sit here and defend him, it's like, bro, you've gone to management and made those decisions. Like, bro, like you decided to get rid of Drew Holiday, but you kept the Nassus. With all due respect, like you decided to make some of these decisions. So it's just like I want to feel bad for Giannis because he's putting his hat on, he's coming to work every day, he's putting up MVP type numbers, but it's like it's not translating. And I will say this. I genuinely think that Giannis wants to stay stay on the Bucks. But at this point, it's just like, looking long term at his career, like, he honestly he needs to try to force his way up out of there. And it's crazy because it's like he's been part of the problem, but I don't see like if they try to trade Damian Lillard now, I don't see them getting back as much in return because Dame hasn't looked as good. And I think trust me. Right now, if Dame was on the Heat or like a team he really genuinely wanted to play for and felt motivated, he'd be putting up crazy numbers because he's had some really good games this season. It's just him and Giannis just don't work chemistry-wise. Like, Drew Holiday was the perfect fit because, as I've said in the past, Giannis needs the ball in his hand to be successful. And you know who also needs the ball in his hand to be successful? Damian Lillard. Drew Holiday could run. Drew Holiday could have 7 points and still have the most impact on a basketball game, night in and night out. Damian Lillard can't do that, unfortunately. But I will say, even when they do get Chris Middleton back, like it's gotten so bad for the Bucks. I saw Brian Windhorst talking about it this past week. They called and tried to make trades. Nobody wants to trade with them. It's gotten that bad. So I don't really see an out for them unless they trade Giannis or Dame, man. I feel like if they're going to get the most value, they're going to have to trade Giannis, which is like, if you have to pick between Giannis and Dame, you definitely don't want to trade Giannis, especially at this point in his career. But I don't know what the Bucks are going to do going forward, but I feel like it's about to get worse before it gets better.
Agreed. So two teams that I think we should shout out very quickly. Mm-hmm. The Cavs. They're 11-0.
All I'm gonna say is shout out to Kenny Atkinson. I'll leave it at that.
Agreed. They're 11-0. They're playing some good basketball. And then actually, I want to shout out the Pistons and Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
Because Cade has been hooping. He got smashed on last night. Boy.
Pause on that, but that's my guy.
I said smashed on, not.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's a difference. So he's been balling. And the Pistons have actually been playing pretty good basketball. It took them a while to get the flow. I mean, hey, they beat the Lakers. It's taken them a while to get into that flow, but I like what I'm seeing. They're a young team, still growing. They're doing some really good things. And then very quickly, Jamison, I know you want to chime in on this one. The Hornets.
Yeah.
LaMelo, but I like how good he's actually looking.
Yeah, LaMelo's looked phenomenal. Like, he's been arguably the best fourth quarter player in the entire league, him and Jason Tatum. But what I've really noticed from LaMelo is he's taking pride on the defensive side of the basketball, which I know Charles Lee put an emphasis on and kind of challenged him heading into this season. But overall, their team has looked really good. And then Brandon Miller has finally, like, I said this, like, there was a time where, like, watching some of their games last year, I was like, man, Brandon Miller can be the best player on that team in about 2 to 3 more seasons. I still think I was wrong about that. It's going to be LaMelo Ball if he can continue to stay healthy. But overall, I think if the Hornets continue to play this type of basketball, especially with the way some of like teams like the Bucks and the Sixers have started off this season, like I said, we predicted it. They can at least make the play-in, which I feel like would be a huge success for them and out of the city of Charlotte. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Hornets.
Cool. There are a lot of injuries that are piling,
Yeah, it sucks.
and so I know I saw that Chet. I don't know how long though, Jameson. How long is Chet actually going to be
They
out?
said 8 to 10 weeks
Oh my goodness.
because this is hip.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how the Thunder make that adjustment. I like the fact that they have a deep bench,
Yeah.
and so can they? I don't necessarily know that they're going to be able to continue because they're undefeated too, right?
Yeah. Well, no, sir. They've lost, I think, 1 or 2 games now.
They lost one game or 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
So to see how long they can keep that momentum, But again, I still think that they are the cream of the crop when it comes to the Western Conference.
I agree.
And it'll be interesting to see how they make that adjustment with Chet. But I do believe that for a deep enough bench, to really kind of, I won't say overcome, but to hold serve until he's able to come back.
Yeah.
But
you know what's wild, though? What's good for them? That they have Isaiah Hartenstein.
Right.
Like,
Now he's back from being injured.
yeah,
correct?
yes, sir.
So that'll be interesting to see how they make that.
I might need to go pick him up in fantasy now I think about it.
I literally was about to say the same thing. So I might need to go pick him up.
And Dad, think about this. Jalen Williams will be back soon. The other J-Dub. I mean, not J-Dub, but the other Jalen Williams. So, Dad, that's why I just got to salute to Sam Presti. Like, that brother, the way he's constructed his roster, it's like by the time Chet comes back, they'll probably still be a top 3 seed in the West, which is wild.
Yeah, that is crazy. So, all right, we're gonna wrap on the NBA. What's last on the docket? We'll wrap everything up tonight, Zach.
We're gonna get to moving the needle. That definitely didn't move the needle when Shaq got hurt. It is 8 to 10 weeks. That hurts. That hurts my heart. But
that's your squad, right?
yeah, that hurts my heart.
KD hurt too.
Yeah, I might need to stop watching basketball for a couple of days. But anyways, moving the needle. We'll start with you this week, James.
Yeah, so I actually touched on it a little bit earlier. Hubert Davis is moving the needle for me. I'm actually paying close attention to. I'm not getting ready to say that I'm an expert when it comes to basketball, but I know enough about basketball to recognize where adjustments are made with the X's and O's. And I have to say that the adjustments that he made, the way that team came out, and then the fact that it was reported that the person in the locker room who was really kind of getting everybody, riled up and telling everybody, hey, is the freshman James Brown, who doesn't even get a lot of play.
It's crazy.
That Hubert Davis is recruiting that kind of talent, and those kinds of guys who Roy Williams always talked about. Carolina wants to go get the character guys. People who say, well, with the new NIL era, it's not going to be the same as it used to be, and Carolina is going to spend money. Hubert Davis has literally said, I don't care about how much money some of these guys want. Still want to recruit guys who want to have the name Carolina on their jersey, and they want to play for this school. So I appreciate the fact that he's still trying to make sure that the guys that he brings in have that same mentality. They're character guys, and those are the kinds of guys you want to be able to come back from 20 points down in Fog Allen Fieldhouse. So shout out to Coach Davis.
Yeah, and what moved the needle for me this week was South Carolina women's basketball. Huge shout out to Dawn Staley. They have now won 40 straight games, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I'll be honest, I said this, I'm still gonna stand on this, but I picked USC to actually win the whole thing this year. But it genuinely might end up being South Carolina again. It's just something about Dawn Staley and how she has that program playing and how she just continues to get recruits year in and year out. Just speaks a lot to her as not only as a coach but as a person. So huge shout out and much love to Dawn Staley and the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Well, if you said USC, you'd still be right.
Yeah, true. Yeah, my fault. I'm in Southern California with Juju. Yeah, my fault.
We go.
Yeah, my fault. Appreciate that.
But wrapping it up with this week's episode, we got the Monday Night Football and the Thursday Night Football predictions. So we'll start with Monday night. Tonight we have the Rams and the Dolphins starting just a little bit. So Jameson, who you got?
Oh, last thing I forgot to say, my fault. I should have said it's for moving the needle because we can't bypass it. But what Nikola Jokic did last night, which is absolutely incredible too.
Ooh.
But I don't know how we skipped over that. That was my bad. But yeah, my prediction for Monday night, I want to take the Dolphins, but I'm gonna take the Rams. I just trust Matthew Stafford. It's also a home game for them, so I'm gonna take the Rams.
Same, and honestly, I've got Tyreek Hill on fantasy team, and I didn't play because it was up in the air for tonight. So if he's playing hurt and potentially still nursing that, I don't see the Dolphins winning. So I'm taking the Rams as well. And then I'll go ahead for Thursday night football. It's the Commanders versus the Eagles.
A good game finally. Wow.
That would actually be a good game. And guess who I'm gonna take? I'm going to take the Commanders.
I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels, special.
Yeah.
Very, very special. This year, he is this year's C.J. Stroud.
Yep.
But might actually be already a better thrower of the football.
Yep.
It remains to be seen, but I'm not discounting C.J. Stroud because C.J. Stroud's accuracy is ridiculous this early in his career, but some of the stuff I'm seeing from Jaden Daniels, he looks very composed. So I'm going to take the Commanders for Thursday night.
Same here. And I'll be honest, that's going to actually be a huge game for both teams, whoever ends up winning, because they're right now neck and neck in their division. So right. I'm going to take the Commanders, especially I feel like, coming off that loss to the Steelers yesterday, that was a really good game too. I feel like they'll come out, with a lot more momentum. They'll make the right adjustments. And I'll be honest, even though the Eagles beat the Cowboys yesterday, it's like I still don't fully trust the Eagles, man. So I'm going to take the Commanders.
Agreed. Cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap up this week's podcast. Thanks to everybody for listening. Once again, happy Veterans Day to all there. Again, thank you for your service. And we will see you next time on the J&J Podcast.